morning. It's been a really crisp week-ish. I had a frost Friday last week, so the main garden looks a little rough. Not that it looked picturesque before that, but like there's noticeable frost damage. If you haven't seen frost damage before, I'll show you what that looks like. And then I always think it's interesting to see what it looks like for different plants. So kale is frost hardy. That looks fine. It's incredibly happy. My cucumbers, not so much. Not that it's dead, but it definitely has really unhappy leaves. And now, this type of season, when it's frost time, is a good time for you to observe your garden, because you will have microclimates, places that get pockets of cold more than others, places that are warmer than others, and sometimes that can change from year to year depending on the types of plants you have in place. So places where I've left the corn stalks up, they sheltered some of the plants behind them, which impacted the microclimate. So I'll take you around the main garden, and then I'll go through something I'd started looking at yesterday, which was the potatoes that I planted in straw. I've never done that before, so this was a learning opportunity for me, and hopefully one for you as well. So I talked about I left the corn stalks up. That doesn't mean that everything is fine, because this squash vine, I think, is completely done. But these tomatoes, they're fine. It didn't get super cold. Well, it did, but so you can see the top here has frost damage. The leaves almost look a little burnt. However, there's still good foliage here. I still got tomatoes here. Holy basil, you can see some of that was damaged, but the whole plant isn't lost. This back piece is fine. This piece is fine. I've got some beets down there that are also fine. Those are frost hardy. You can see that the ground cherries right here also experienced some frost damage on the tips. However, at the base of this plant, you can see that it looks much better. Zinnias, those seem to be doing okay. Similar, slight frost damage, not the end of the world. My lettuce here, fine, no impact. The cucumbers, impact. There's absolutely some green leaves that are fine still, but the ones along the outside edge are all crinkled and damaged. They have frost damage. They almost look burnt. But you can see across the way, I've got beans. The leaves on that are fine at the bottom, but up near the top, it got colder. The plant was damaged up higher. Even nasturtiums here that like the cold, you can see that one side of the plant was more impacted than the other. And then I've got basil here where the tops of it was damaged. Nasturtiums, some of that was damaged as well. But not all my basil is gone. There's still some basil here, still some beans. All of these beans that are out here still were for drying, so it's not a huge impact to me. Cosmos did surprisingly well, honestly. Like, that's not a vegetable, but like, yeah, those survived pretty well. But what I think is interesting is I was just showing you this basil on the southwest side being damaged. However, the basil on the northwest side has some slight damage, but you can see that some varieties still did really well. Like, those are doing fine. Celtis is still going. Some of my pumpkin leaves were damaged. I'm trying to just let it hang on enough to ripen the one or two that are left on the vines. Tomatoes, similarly, fine. I've got some more here that are ready for harvest. And then similar thing for this Violina rugosa. I am hoping that just whatever's left out here is able to ripen. But things like the wonderberries here, doing fine. That kale, incredibly happy. And then this chard, tucked under here, doing really well. I even still have beans that I could harvest and roast today if I wanted, but I wanted all of these for drying. And then what's neat too is I looked up the temperature range for these mushrooms, and it's 50 degrees Fahrenheit to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. But I think the greenhouse puts off some radiant heat. So I've still got a couple of these that are hanging in there, which I think is pretty cool. Any of the mushrooms I have in the fridge that are getting a little long in the tooth, I intend to slice, dehydrate, and we'll be able to use those in cooking throughout, just like anything else I dehydrate. You rehydrate them in the cooking process. The other things I was working on yesterday that I'll catch you up on is I harvested a lot more of the amaranth, and then I started digging up the potatoes from the straw. So growing potatoes in straw is something I'd read about, not something I'd tried. This was my first season trying it, and I've noticed some pros and cons. So previously I've grown potatoes in bags, usually potato bags, just because they sometimes come with that handy little flap on the side, which is really convenient. I haven't watered the garden and it hasn't rained in over a week, but the moisture level in the soil is still like really intense. So it's moist in the straw. So on the plus side, the straw broke down really well. I've got some pretty heavy dirt it turned into. The downside is it is heavy dirt. Like I already have a clay soil like underneath the straw. So it's slightly frustrating to me that when the straw broke down, it wasn't lighter. I think I wanted it to be more like when wood chips break down. It's a little lighter and fluffier. So it's not the end of the world, but it's not my favorite and wasn't something I was expecting. I think I expected it to be more like when the carbonaceous wood chips break down because it's straw. So in my brain, that was also a carbonaceous material. So that was unexpected. Again, not bad. Today's my last sunny day this week. I'm supposed to get 2 days worth of rain. And then it's going to be cloudy over the weekend. So I'm actually going to tarp the potatoes for whatever I don't harvest today throughout the sun, to try to prevent them from getting any more moisture built up. But as far as the pros go for growing in straw for the potatoes, I definitely had some things in the pro column, and I do think the pros outweigh the cons. So this is the very weedy potato bed. How easily the weeds spread through here is actually in my con category, and it goes deep down. This type of weed, when I dug the hole for building the greenhouse, I saw the root system go for these down about 3 feet. So, I mean, I really don't have a whole lot of hope to never have this kind of weed. It's just kind of everywhere for me. But when I dug up this portion of the bed yesterday, I got a whole bunch of my German butterballs, which are my favorite potato. They have a delicious buttery flavor to them. This was not dirt that I put in here. I did sprinkle dirt on here from a couple of potato bags, but nowhere near this quantity, and not this consistency. So this is really heavy. It's still wet. Like I said, I haven't watered this for over a week. It hasn't rained for over a week, and it's still very moist. I do think this is a very viable way to create a quick garden bed. I think I used maybe 2 or 3 total straw bales that you can just pick up at the store or however you source your straw. I found so much critters in this. So worms, centipedes, beetles, a whole bunch of little invertebrate things, tearing down the straw and decomposing this material to make this dirt. So that was really heartening. I also got pretty sizable potatoes out of this, and I'll show you those next. So I mentioned that I've grown potatoes exclusively in potato grow bags prior to this season, which means that I'm used to getting potatoes in this range for sizes because I am not fantastic about remembering to consistently fertilize containers. One day I'll get better at that. Not today. And while I did get potatoes that size in the straw bale bed, I also got potatoes this size. So that is way better than I've gotten previously. And I did not, that I remember, I did not like actively fertilize that bed either. I treated it exactly the same as I do the potato bags. So that was a win for me as well. So growing potatoes in straw, for me, the cons are the heavy soil it makes, and the amount of weed pressure. There were many weeds, which I obviously didn't stay on top of consistently. You can see previous vlogs for that honesty. So yeah, I am maybe a fourth of the way through that potato bed to get this kind of harvest, which is really satisfying. I'll still need to finish curing those in the dark with a little fan running on them. And then I've got the next batch of amaranth here that I've been dehydrating. I've essentially been working on dehydrating that in smaller quantities so that I can take care of it in a timely fashion. If I harvested all of it, I don't have any place to put that, so that would have been much more difficult. Frost experienced outside, observing the microclimates is a great thing for you to do if that happens in your region and you've never seen it before. And it's a great thing to do in an ongoing sense, so that you're routinely checking to see if your microclimates have changed at all, particularly if you've changed something about your garden setup. But for inside the greenhouse, totally different story. I still have warm season crops in here to harvest. So I have a couple watermelons that I need to take care of, noodle beans that I've just let go to seed, honestly. Nasturtiums that are like really happy. The thing is massive. So I've cut those back, I think 2 or 3 times this season, and it just keeps spilling over the walkway. So that's pretty funny to me. But underneath here, all of my winter greens are very healthy and happy. Look at that. Those are beautiful. And then my mustards in particular here, I think, are glorious. That red leaf color is absolutely beautiful. I'm still getting these sunrise tomatoes coming in. I'm still getting cucamelons. I've gotten, here's one. I got a handful of these yesterday that were a nice little post-lunch dessert. And then I have my Frank's Iranian here that I had to tie up, going strong still. So it's been a really frosty fall week. I mentioned I had a frost going down to 32 Friday. Today it's almost 9 and it's just above 40 degrees. So it's kind of chilly. It is absolutely fall. And this is, I think, the first season that I have felt the fatigue in a way that I'm tired. I'm kind of ready for the frost to take out whatever's left outside so that I can just do the slower pace of just the greenhouse this winter. I'm still absolutely looking forward to having fresh greens in the winter and fresh root crops and all of those very yummy things that I have in here and I've started. I think they're beautiful, but I'm ready for that slower winter season. And I am ready to enjoy the time of rest that's coming. So if you, like me, are feeling a little fatigued with your fall harvesting experience and look forward to the rest that is winter, then that's all right. Now is the perfect time for you to go through your seeds, see what you still have, because right now in the fall, seed companies often are hosting a lot of seasonal sales. And so whatever you're missing now is a great time to place those orders get them in for next year. And really, when I say that, I don't necessarily mean I need you to do a full inventory of your stuff. I just mean that you should probably look and see if there's any specific herb seeds that you're out of, any beans you're out of, whatever it is that you enjoyed a lot of this year. Make sure you have that for next year, and hopefully you can do it while there's a sale ongoing, because it's always nice to get things on sale. Now is also a great time for you to sit down with your garden journal, or however you're tracking that, and record like your top lessons for this year, the top things you enjoyed, whether it was how the garden was set up or the specific vegetable varieties you had, specific flower varieties, whatever it is that you're putting in your space that brings you joy. Record that now while you remember. And then when you go in for garden planning for next season, you have a quick list of things that went really well. Maybe it's a couple of things that you're like, don't do that again, or precautions you want to try for next time. Just take a quick, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes and jot down those things from this season now. It's a good time to reflect and be aware of how far you've come since the season started. So I encourage you to take the time right now to think about what went really well for you, things that you experimented with that did or didn't go to plan, and then maybe a little dream for next year. But thanks for coming along with me, and I'll catch you next time. Without adding butter. So then if you add butter, even better. Back on task. Not about food. I mean, it is about food.